Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Hello, Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf, Nazir Yates. We are holding at the fourth line from the top of the Amid. Says the Gemara, Man Tana Lahadatan Rabbanon. Who is the Tana who expresses the Shita contained in the following brisa, which says, Ha'isha Shenadar ben Nazir. We have a married woman accepting Nazirus. Now, Nazirus is a form of neder, which technically allows for her husband to do hafara on that neder, to interfere, disrupt, and cancel the neder. So she is doing Nazirus, and she becomes Tami, Vinitma. And we know that a Nazir, when he becomes Tami, needs to bring 3 karbanis, a pair of birds, one goes for chatas, one for oila, a behema for Hashem as well. And in fact, she was mafresh. She designated those behemos on account of her tumas nazir. And what happens then? After which, her husband steps in, does hafara, cancels the entire nazirus. What does she do now? Does she bring any of those karbanis which she had prepared or not? Answers the brisa. Maybe a chatas oif. All she brings is the chatas bird. Ve'ena mevia oila sa'if, but not the oila bird, and certainly not the behema for the asham. Why? Why is she bringing some and not the other? Amr Rav Chizda, who's the Tana presenting this shita? This is Rabbi Shmuel. Yesterday's Rabbi Shmuel. Explains Tosfos. What's the connection? So yesterday we had a case of a Nazir who becomes Tamei. He needs to have 7 days of Tahara, throughout where he experiences the Hazas Paraduma on the 3rd and 7th day. On day 8, he brings his Karbanis. When does he start counting fresh? When does he begin a new slate? Nazirus Tahara begins, according to Chachamim, once he brings the Chatas, even before the Asham. Pasuk says, he begins B'yaymahu, the day of Karbanis, even without actually bringing all the Karbanis. And the Pasuk doesn't need to be excluding the Oila. That's Pashat. An Oila is a dair, and it's just a gift, like any other gift you bring. Of course, that doesn't stand in the way of starting his new Nazirus count. You don't need a Pasuk for that. When the Pasuk tells you that you don't need to wait for the Karbanis, it's referring to the Asham as well, even though it's a Nazir related karban. Don't worry about it right now. You can start Nazirus as long as you brought something lechatas. Rabbi Shmuel disagrees. He says even the oila bird, which a Nazir brings, isn't just a generic gift. It's Nazir related. You would think that yes, only after that oila can he start counting. That's why the pasuk says B'yamahu, the day is enough, even before the oila. So the pasuk here is being mamait the need to bring the oila before starting fresh, but of course he has to bring the chatas and the asham. So in fact, according to Rabbi Shmuel, you see that the oila bird, which a Nazir brings, isn't just a plain gift. It's Nazir related. It's identified with the Nazirus. You can't just bring it for no reason. Over here, when she's obviously not bringing all the karbanis of Nazir, as we see, she doesn't bring the asham, and likewise the brisa says she can't bring the oila. That's because she's not a proper Nazir. Husband took away the Nazirus. Just as she can't bring the asham because she is no longer a Nazir. Likewise, the oila, which is as well a Nazir related karban, consistent with Rabbi Shmuel's view yesterday. But 1 second. You've explained why no asham, even why no oila. Then why yes chatas ha'oif? Asks the Gemara Micah Sovar. What does the brisa hold? Ika Sovar bal mi akar akar. There's a whole shaila as to how we view hafaras habal. Is it going to uproot the Nazirus retroactively? May akar akar, in which case she was never a Nazir, Don't bring anything. Chatas ha'oif. Nami lo laisi. She should not bring even the chatas ha'oif. On the other hand, the kasavar, if the brisa holds, Baal, the afara of the Baal, is megas gaius. Doesn't really uproot retroactively. It's not lamafreya. It's mikano lahaba. Megas gaius, it chops the nether. It terminates the nether. But she's considered to have been a Nazira up until this point. If that's the case, then bring everything. Oila sa'if nami laisi. She shall bring even the oila sa'if. And the Asham as well. Hence is the Gemara, Lo'ilam kasavar ba'al me'akar akar. The truth is that the husband's hafara undoes it retroactively. She was never really a Nazira, in which case there was no chiyav karvan upon Tumah. Why? Yes, chata sa'if. Special reason for that. For Rabbi Shmuel, this Tana of the Brisa, Rabbi Shmuel, Savala Rabbi Kapper. He follows the view of Rabbi Kapper, who gives us a very novel explanation for the karbanos of a Nazir Tameh. The Sanya, Rabbi Kapper, Beribi, the great Rabbi Kapper, used to explain like this. What does the pasuk mean when it speaks about a Nazir becomes Tameh, who brings karbanos, v'chiper olav, he needs atonement, me'asher chata ala nefesh, because he sinned pertaining to his nefesh. What do you mean? What did he do wrong? V'chi be'ezei nefesh chata. What did he do so bad? Ella, the answer is like this: Shetzir atzroy min hayayin. A Nazir deprived himself from wine. That's not Hashem's way. You're meant to rise in matters of kedusha in a positive framework, rather than depriving and restriction. So that's why he's called a choite. Choite literally means missing. So he deprived himself. He cut away from his nefesh, and that's why he's called a choite. Listen to this kal v'chomer. Look, this fellow, what did he do? All he did was keep away from wine. A very limited restriction. Still nikra choite. The Torah labels him as a choite. We should all take lesson. Hametzar atzmai mikol davar. A person who fasts, for instance, and deprives himself from more than just wine. Hametzar atzmai mikol davar. Allah has kama v'kama. Of course, that's not the recommended route. So that's why the Isha will bring a chata sa'if, because she was mitzayir herself. Asks the Gemara 1 second. V'ha Nazir tamiksiv. Rabbi Lezer is saying that every Nazir is a chayte because of this pasuk. What is the pasuk speaking about? It's speaking in the psukim of a Nazir who became tamei. V'anana, we're trying to prove afilu Nazir tar kamrin, even a regular Nazir is called a chayte. Perhaps not. Maybe this description is specific to a Nazir who was careless and allowed himself to become tummy. That's why he's a chayte, not a regular Nazir. Simply, as a result of deprivation. We don't call him a chayte. Says the Gemara, Kasav Rabbi Lezer Akapa, Nazir Torah nami chaytehu. Rabbi Lezer holds that in reality, the Torah alludes to even a regular Nazir. He as well is called chayte. So why does the pasuk specifically focus on a Nazir tamei? Because he repeated his chet. Tesis explains, he wasn't careful from tumah. V'herich tsar al tsar. The chet is tsar. But this fellow increased, lengthened, prolonged this tsar. By becoming tummy, he lengthened, perhaps doubled his nazirus. That's why we choose to focus on him. He exacerbated the chet. But in reality, the chet here relates to restriction, to deprivation, which really applies to every Nazir. Even a Nazir who was successful, who was tar throughout the Nazirus. So how does this answer our question? We have an Isha, became a Nazira, husband knocked it off. She still brings a chata soif. Question was, hafara undoes it retroactively, she was never a Nazira. Why bring anything? The answer is because she was mitzayir atzma. Technically, she was never really a Nazir, but she committed to tsar, she deprived herself, and therefore she is deserving of bringing a carbon, a chatas, but only a chatas oif, and Tosfos explains. Chatas oif is a unique carbon. We find that even you can even bring it al hasafik. I think Croesus mentions an Isha who had a suffix whether she gave birth, she could bring a chatas oif. Chatas oif is a unique carbon, which doesn't have to necessarily be based and justified upon, a bona fide chiyuv. We find this in the Gemara in Nedarim as well, that back on Daf Pei Gimel, even on a half Nazirus, you can bring a chatas oif based on this idea because it comes al suffix. So this interesting carbon, chatas oif, can be brought even when there isn't really a solid legal reason to bring a carbon, such as in this case. But only the chatas oif, not the other carbonis. Okay, so we have a fellow who was in the Beis HaKvaros, basically meaning he was tamei and became a Nazir. The Mishnah says, Yatzav and Nichnas, if he left and came back into the Beis HaKvaros, then the days in between having left and come back and having come back in, those days are going to be Eilun min Aminyan. They count towards the new Nazirus. What do you mean? If he's still tamei, how do you start counting Nazirus? Just because he left the Beis HaKvaros, he's still tamei. Chal alei Nazirus. How do you get to start the new Nazirus if you're still tamei? Amar Shmuel, we're speaking that he left the Beis HaKvaros. Then they sprinkled upon him the paraduma water, v'shina, and then again on the seventh day, v'tavel, and he was tavel, which facilitates a new count. And then he came back in, became tamei again. We say, the days which were b'tahara, that triggers the new Nazirus, and he's considered a Nazir Tahar, who now becomes tamei again by returning to the Beis HaKvaros, and that triggers the whole process of tahara and the carbon, etc. Says the Gemara, he needs to come back for that to happen. Elo de nichnas, hu de'oile min aminyan. It's only because he comes back to the Beis HaKvaros do we say that the days of tahara that he experienced while he was outside count towards the new Nazirus, dafka because he comes back. El de nichnas de'oile min aminyan lo nichnas. Let's say he never came back to the Beis HaKvaros. He stayed out, became tar, and he started counting. They don't count towards, you can't start counting Nazirus? Of course you could. Why does the Mishnah specify that he came back in? Why is that important? The answer is, there's a chiddush here. It goes without saying. Of course, obviously, Yatza. If he just left the Beis HaKvaros and became tar and he started fulfilling his Nazirus, of course it counts. El afilu nichnas. And the chiddush is, even if he came back in right away, still oidlim min aminyan, the period of tahara that he had outside, temporarily outside the Beis HaKvaros, that triggers, that activates the new count. In which case, when he comes back and becomes tamei, he has to bring a carbon, even if it happened the same day. But if he already activated tahara, it's oidlim min aminyan. You start the clock. The clock of Nazir's Tahara starts ticking, in which case if he goes back in and becomes tamei, he must bring a carbon tumah. Amalei Rav Kana Ravasi l'Rav. Rav Kana Ravasi, or Talmidim of Rav, asked him, my time will mefashaslan kalein mili. Shmuel, gave us a beautiful explanation to the Mishnah. Everything makes sense. Yatza means he left and became tar, and the chiddush of nichnas is even if he came right back in, he's considered a Nazir tar who became tamei, and all the halachas apply to him. My time will mefashaslan. Why didn't you likewise offer this explanation? Why didn't you elaborate on the Mishnah like this? Kalein mili, the way Shmuel did. Amar lahayins, he says, of course I knew the pshat. I could have told you. I didn't realize that you were confused. Yeah, I didn't realize you need the pshat. I mean, I figured perhaps you don't need me to explain it for you because it's so simple, and you had a proper understanding. And okay, next time you'll ask me, I'll give you the pshat. So Tanakama holds that even if he was tahor for a very short-lived tahara, he was tahor just for one day, came right back and became tamei, it triggers the whole process. 7 days, karbanis. Rabbi Lezer disagrees. The only time we say that the process of a Nazir tamei is applied is provided the tumah occurs after having already counted at least a couple of days. He must be in the midst of his Nazirus experience and then become tamei, so that this process applies. If he becomes tamei on the first day of Nazirus, he hasn't yet established his track record. He hasn't yet solidified his Nazirus, in which case the process applied to a Nazir tamei doesn't apply to him. Shneimar, it's a pasuk, vayomim harishonim. The earlier days, the days which he already counted, which he already kept, those days, Yiplu will collapse when he becomes tamei, which indicates achiyu yomim rishonim. They need to be at least a couple of days which he already observed b'tahara, which now became disrupted by his tumah, so that the karbanos, so that the whole system of cancellation applies. Amar Ula, like Amar Belezer, Ela Batamishan Nazir. Says Ula, I want to explain to you. This halacha of Rabbi Lezer, who requires at least a couple of days of observance prior to the tumah. It's only by a Tamishan Nazir. So let's say he was standing in a Beis HaKvaros, accepts Nazirus, leaves, becomes tar, and comes back in. In this case, since the entire Nazirus was established sort of on the wrong foot, he needs to first establish himself properly. A couple of days of proper observance, followed by tumah, so that tumah should go and cancel and bring karbanis. Aval b'nazir tar, but a standard nazir, perfectly tar, shen nitma, who becomes tamei, since it was established properly. B'tahara, in this case, afilu yom echad soiser, even if it becomes tamei right away, on that day, all the halachas applies. It cancels. He has to bring karbanis. Amarava my time with Rabbi Lezer. Why does Ula understand Rabbi Lezer in this fashion? Amakra ki timei nizrei mishum de betum nazir. The pasuk which speaks about yamim rishani yiplu, which is Rabbi Lezer's source, they need a couple of days of observance prior to tumah, explains ki timei nizrei, because he was mishum de betum nazir. He accepted the nazir's bid tumah. It was established bid tumah. It wasn't properly established, and therefore, in order for the whole system to be applied, he needs to first have a couple of days of tahara. But if in fact the Nazirus was inaugurated b'tahara properly, in that case, even if tumah occurs immediately right after the Kabbalah, all the halachas of tumah apply. Esvi Abaye, I have a kasha on you, says Abaye. I'll show from the Brisa that even in the case of Nazirus b'tahara, Rabbi Lezer requires that he be standing right in the middle, a couple of days behind him, a couple of days ahead. Hareni Nazir me'ayim. One accepts upon himself 100-day Nazirus. V'nitma b'tchilas me'ah. He comes tamei on the first day. Yochel yehei seiser. Perhaps we apply all the halachas, cancellation, karbanis. Tamalema v'hayomim haru yishanim yiplu. No, it doesn't work like that. You need at least a couple of days in your pocket. Ad sheyu lo yamin rishonim. V'zeh ein lo yerushonim. He doesn't. It happened right away. Likewise, nitma b'seif me'ah. Suppose he becomes tamei on the last day, day 100. Yochel yehei seiser. Perhaps satira applies, cancellation applies on all those previous days. Tamalema, no. You need to have a couple of days left ahead of you. V'hayomim rishonim yiplu. The earlier days fall. The earlier ones fall, but not the upcoming days. Apparently there are upcoming days. But this fellow who became tamei on the very last day, he has no more days to keep. So bottom line is, it has to be somewhere in the middle. some days before you, some days still coming. Suppose he became tummy on day 99. So it's today and tomorrow, and that's it. And he's done. So perhaps it's too short a time for stira. It's not called, it's not considered as though he has days coming up. It's just today, part of today and tomorrow. Once again, the pasuk says the earlier days fall, but not the upcoming days. Apparently, there are days still on the horizon. In this case, he also has days coming up. So even if he comes tamei middle of day 99, he has the rest of today and tomorrow. It's called Yamim Achronim. Now, says Abaye, what happened here? Was he tamei when he was Mekabel Nazirus? No. We're not speaking about a fellow who was tamei when he was Mekabel Nazirus. Why? The Brisa says, Hareini Nazir Meya v'nitma b'tchilas Meya. He accepted a Nazirus of 100 and became tamei after accepting. Clearly, he was tar when it started. And what does the Brisa say? Rabbi Lezer applies his formula, his requirement to this case as well. Even by another tar that becomes tamei, we don't apply the halacha of seiser and karbanis. Uktani, the Brisa says, Achi lo yamin rishonim. We only apply it if the tumah occurred somewhere in the middle, between the first and the last days. Tiyufta, that's a refutation on Ula's interpretation of Rabbi Lezer. It's clear that in all cases of Nazirus, tumah will only profoundly affect him if it occurs smack in the middle of the Nazirus, with days before and days coming up. I have a question for you. Halen yamim dekamrinan. So you say you need yamim rishonim. You need some days behind you. Do you need full days or even part days? The nafak chad, one day is gone, or matchil and trey, and he's started the second day of Nazirus. That's enough to be considered yamim. A little yesterday, a little today. Or deal with the nafkin train maschil and tlasa. Needs to have gone through 2 days into the third day. So you have really, 2 full days. He didn't have an answer. Asa shaili Rava. So he came to Rava to ask him. Amalei, he says, yeah, even in this case, yiplu ksiv. It says vayamin rishayim yiplu. It could have just said vayamin rishayim. Movad yamim rishayim. The Tosfos says didn't have to say yiplu. We don't count the first day. They don't say they collapse, they fall. Yiplu is a lashon rabbim to tell you even in this case. Tosfos says mashma nafila koldu, any type of nafila, even a partial nafila, even if they're not 2 full days, it also counts. So the pasuk says vayamim rishayim. Yamim is lashon rabbim and yiplu is lashon rabbim. Why do we need both lashonis? Says the Gemara, both are necessary. V'yisrach lemichtav yamim, v'yisrach lemichtav yiplu. Because rachmana yamim, if we only say yamim, and Tosfos says it could have said he'll start as Nazirus, and don't count the yamim. Milvad yamim rishayim. That's all. Didn't have to say yamim rishayim yiplu. So dramatic. So if it only says yamim v'lo kasav yiplu, Havamina, I would say you need full yamim behind you. Ad enough can train, violent lasa, you have to have gone through 2 days and already entered the third day. That's why it says yiplu, kas rachmani yiplu. You don't need 2 full days. Because of yiplu, because of yamim. If it only says yiplu, varishonim yiplu without the word yamim, I would say you don't even need 2 days. Havamina afilu chad. Even if you only had 1 day of Nazirus. Even though it says yiplu, yiplu is a reference to all types of Nazirim that are experiencing this situation. Right? 1 day is enough, but it applies to everybody who has this situation. Because Rachmana Yamim, that's why we need Yamim. 2 days is a requirement. Continues the Mishnah, Mishnah Nazar Nazirus Harbe. We all know that Chachamim U'Masaken, that Eretz Am, Chutz La'aretz, has tumah because of the Mesim that are buried indiscriminately, Chachamim will geyser tumah. And therefore, when a person wants to really fulfill Nazirus properly, he should go to Eretz Yisrael to do his Nazirus. And in fact, if he does it outside Eretz Yisrael, when he comes to Eretz Yisrael, he has to redo it. There's a knas, a penalty, midrabanan, you have to redo it. So this fellow was Nazar Nazirus Harbe, a very long Nazirus, 1,000-day Nazirus. V'yishlam es Nazirus, and completed it in Chutz La'aretz. V'achakach b'la La'aretz, and he comes to Eretz Yisrael to bring his karbanos. What happens now? V'shama imrim Nazir shleishim yom. They're a mekel. They say, yeah, you have to just redo 30 days. The smallest, Nazirus. U'besil imrim, no, start from scratch. Nazir b'tchil, you have to restart everything. It says, oh, you didn't do anything yet. In fact, there was a story, Masa b'Hilni Amalka, famous Queen Hilni. Some say it was a Gieris. Shalach b'nadol milchama, her son Munbaz went out to war. And as a skula, as a protector, she says, "Va'amra im yave b'nil min milchama b'shalom." My son returns safely from the front. Ahei nazir sheva shanim. I commit to being a nazir for 7 full years. And she was in Chutz La'aretz. Uba b'na min milchama. Her son returned safely, and she kept her promise. Voice nazir sheva shanim. 7-year nazira. Uba save sheva shanim osel la'aretz. After which she went to Yisrael to bring the karbanos. And she discovered there's a problem. Basil decided she has to redo another 7 years. And what happened to her? After her 7 years, at the end, she was really old. At the very end, she became tummy. She'll start over again. Another 7 years. Turns out she was a Nazir for 21 years. Rabbi Yehuda, he disagrees. It was just a 14-day experience, and the Gemara explained the reason for the machlekes. Okay, let's quickly chazer over today's daf. An isha became a nazira, whose husband came and was mefer the nazirus. We have a brisa which brings just the chatas oiv based on Rabbi Kapper because of the tsar ashachat ala nefesh. Tanakama says any nazir becomes tamei, is now subject to the whole process of Nazirus Tahara. Hayamim Rishonim Yiplu. We cancel everything that he already did. He brings the karbanos. Rabbi Yehuda says, provided that he's in the middle of the Nazirus, some days behind him, some days ahead. The Gemara's maskana is that it applies to any type of Nazir, whether he is tummy to begin with, and then became tar, then became tummy again, or a fellow who was tar, and then becomes tummy. Either way, Rabbi Yehuda says, we learn from Vayamim Rishonim Yiplu, Achiyu La Yamim Rishonim, and Yamim Achronim. Nazirus is meant to be done in Eretz Yisrael. Otherwise, when he gets to Eretz Yisrael, he has to redo. Going to Beis Shammai just 30 days, going to Beis Hillel, redo the entire experience, as per the story of Hilni Amalka, who, according to the Tanakama, was a Nazir for 21 full years. Hasalach Rabbah to all of us, and may we all have a ksiva v'chasim a good gebench year. Amen.